Bears Etc., brought to you by Miller Lite with the voices of the Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
Clarity and momentum on a new dome Chicago Lakefront Stadium project discussed at the NFL owners meeting in Orlando, Florida, from President and CEO Kevin Warren. The Bears meet the Houston Texans in the August 1st preseason opener in Canton, Ohio. The Hall of Fame game, followed by the inductions of Steve McMichael, Devin Hester, and Julius Peppers. Year 3 for Bears head coach Matt Eberflus underway as he looks to guide a growing, maturing football team and a rookie quarterback that will be the focus of the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. We hear from the head coach. And Chairman George McCaskey offers his views on the state of the franchise for a fan base at fever pitch right now. And it's Women's History Month, and Bears personnel coordinator Ashton Washington featured on Bears Etc. among a growing list of women in significant roles around the NFL and in the Bears organization. A lot, and I mean a lot, to discuss here on episode 61 of the Bears Etc. podcast. My name is Jeff Joniak. My broadcast partner, the Super Bowl winning Bears guard, Tom Thayer. Tom, it's been a busy owners meeting here for the last couple of days, and today was something else. A lot to discuss. You ready to dig in, buddy?
Yeah, Jeff, really watching from home, I probably see more coaches' interviews than you get to see because you're chasing the story. So when you hear the different narratives all around the league, from high expectations from other coaches to the uncertainty about players in the draft, about players where ex-general managers trying to determine where guys are going to fall to and who's going to go first. It's an incredible how this has been a nonstop story since the conclusion of last season.
Gotta love the NFL. Hey, we're brought to you by Miller Lite. Tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. All right, let's begin with the stadium project because Kevin Warren, the team's president and CEO, spent 30 minutes with the Chicago media this morning here in Orlando and had some other interviews as well, one-on-ones, and the topic was definitely the Lakefront Stadium project. And still a long way to go. We got renderings and plans, the funding, but it's looking like a new stadium project in Chicago is the Bears' first and foremost plan. Here's Kevin Warren.
Yeah, I mean, all of these projects are, that's a great word. They require momentum. They require vision. They require tenacity. They require a lot of thought and planning, but they also require momentum. And I strongly believe that we're building a momentum to that museum, area. Chicago is the finest city in the United States of America. And I personally believe Chicago is the finest city in the world. And for us to be able to have that combination of the museum campus, those beautiful buildings along the lakefront, and when I say lakefront, a lake that you can swim in that's blue and is clean with a beach, with the backdrop of the greatest architecture of a city, especially a major city in the country. So when you have that combination of the museum, the lakefront, the beach, the architecture, and most of all what makes Chicago special is the people. And so when you can mix that together, you do get great momentum, but it's going to require a lot of work as we proceed forward.
How would you characterize the revenue obstacles of potentially being in a stadium that's not team-owned?
Yeah, I mean, I really look at it as really opportunities. This is a unique time. And, thinking through it, that our owners have committed to over a $2 billion investment into the city of Chicago in a building that will add so many public benefits. One, it'll put people to work, which we need. Two, it creates an opportunity for our Chicagoans to come together to celebrate not only the Chicago Bears, but other massive and major mega sports events. It will put us in a position to bid for a Super Bowl. Hopefully we're blessed to host a Super Bowl, to bid for a Final Four. I mean, you look what's going on now these last couple of weeks with March Madness and Big Ten events, college football playoff events, concerts, and all the other things that come together. And when you think about Chicago, how powerful that city is, to think it has never hosted a Final Four, to my recollection, has never hosted a Super Bowl. And until we get a fixed roof stadium, it won't host it. One of the things I've tried to explore also is to really find another private investment in the city of Chicago over $2 billion. I have not been able to do it. I've even tried to explore a private investment in the city of Chicago over $1 billion. I haven't been able to do it. So when you have an opportunity to have an investment over $2 billion, and also with the support of the National Football League, it is really, special and unique.
What happens next with the Arlington site? And I guess how would you characterize, from the team's perspective, why the Chicago project eventually gained more momentum than Arlington?
Yeah, I mean, we are the largest landowner in Arlington Heights right now, 326 acres. We own a beautiful piece of land, and I have great respect for Mayor Hayes and Randy Reckless and all of the politicians there. So, my belief right now, these projects are incredibly difficult, and just learning the various things that I did in Minnesota, you have to be laser focused. And right now, we're putting our energy to downtown Chicago, to the museum campus, just from an energy and resource standpoint. So we still own the land. We're the largest landowner. We'll stay in communication with Arlington Heights, but the focus now has to be on Chicago to give us the best opportunity for success.
Kevin, you mentioned being laser focused on the city right now, but
Yes.
As you look at the timeline, what is your desired timeline to have something firm of like we're doing this is the plan that's set?
I mean, I think over sometime here in the near future, you'll see a specific plan that we're going to roll out. That's one of the reasons why we've been spending a large amount of time just making sure that we line everything up. I think I said it at my press conference that I speaking from Minnesota and experience, the moment we put a shovel in the ground, we can be open in 36 months. And so it just takes time. And, the biggest concern that I have right now, just with the escalation of costs, and not only in supplies and, you look at the financial markets. I mean, I watch the financial markets as much as I watch the sports markets, and just cost and infrastructure and those things are uncertain. And so we at least have some certainty now, and we've even received information back that every year that we don't finalize the stadium, that the cost will go up anywhere between $150 to $200 million. So these are real dollars. And so that's one of the reasons why I am focused of having a plan, being diligent, us working together, and focusing on the importance of, like, time is now that we need to really pull together. And I think this also provides us a great opportunity to decide kind of who we want to be, not only in Chicago, but in the Chicagoland area, but the state of Illinois. And if, we are an incredible city, not only in beauty, but this is an excellent opportunity from a business standpoint for us to be able to come together and pull together. And that's one of the reasons why I would love to see the Bears work through our details to get a stadium built, and also the White Sox, and what that would do for the piece of property on the 78.
When you say near future, though, do you mean by year's end, 12 months?
I really believe that this is the year that we have to pull together and collectively across the state and across the city and the county to do everything we possibly can, in a manner that makes sense, not being reckless, but in a manner that makes sense to pull together. And then you add the being an election year on top of it. So there are a lot of issues, and there are always a lot of issues. Every one of these development projects has complications, but I'm one of those individuals that I look at it as not only hurdles, but really opportunities, and just to think how special it would be to pull together. I mean, we need to create jobs. We need to create a stronger tax base. We need to pull together, and some of the things that this would provide for our young men and women here in the city of Chicago, not only from a work standpoint, but even to have an environment to be able to play at our building is really, special.
It would require $1 billion in infrastructure, right?
I don't know the exact details of that yet. Those are things that we're working on. And one thing that I can guarantee you, I am fiscally conservative, and I am financially responsible. So anything that we recommend from a financial standpoint will be very well thought out. The other thing that concerns me, and for an individual who lives downtown, I can say that, I heard that there was a point in time in the last decade in Chicago that there were up to 63 cranes in the air, and we need to verify that. And now I think it's 3. And so when you just think about the growth. These cities are, we're competing with other cities, and if you haven't seen it, I would read it. The Sports Business Journal article, I think it was from March 18th. It listed the top 25 sports business cities in the country. For Chicago to not have been on that list is a major concern. I mean, we had cities, Orlando, which we're here, ironically, was number 1, but you had places like Indianapolis and Minneapolis who were in the top 12, top 13. And you had even places like Milwaukee and Detroit who were cities to watch. But to think Chicago, with this massive background, all the professional sports teams we have, the beautiful landscape, the topography, all those things involved, known for Chicago, for an incredible sports city, for us not to be on that city from a business standpoint, those are things that, as a citizen of downtown Chicago and the state of Illinois, those are things from a business standpoint concern me. I look forward to the day that events like this should and can be and will be held in downtown Chicago.
Have you shared that with Mayor Johnson? Have you shared that with Mayor Johnson?
I share that story with anyone who will listen to me, because those are concerns, and I can give you an example. Growing up in Arizona, Las Vegas was a place that only certain adults went for only certain events. And it was a place that I grew up that I've never vacationed there. I only went there for business meetings that I had to go to. My wife Greta and I go to the Super Bowl this year, and I look at her after the Super Bowl, we're at dinner, and I said, this is a place that I actually would come back and visit. They've done an excellent job of bringing professional hockey, professional football, now baseball, and all those other events. And the way that Las Vegas performed, that won't be their last Super Bowl. And so when I sit there and say, that's what Chicago should be able to do.
With the pre-draft process,
Yes.
I'm curious your role. Are you with the scout meetings? What's your communication with Ryan? Are you watching tape on your own? What are all the different things that you do to help support him and enroll in this?
Yeah, and I said it when I came here. I have one focal point, is to win the first of many Super Bowl trophies with the Chicago Bears as we go forward. And so my role in this process is to support Ryan, Matt, all of their staff. Everyone in the building is to be there from a support system to help us win. And Ryan and I are in communication every day, and whether it's in person or if we're traveling on the phone. And our offices are right next door to each other. We share a common wall. And so it truly has been a blessing to work with another type A individual, because both of he and I, although we smile a lot, but we're type A individuals who desperately want to bring a champion here to Chicago, but to have that relationship that we're not trying to see who gets the credit. So I want to be there to support system. I trust him implicitly, and I my focus is 100% of the time working with him on building this football operation, but also 100% of my time on getting the stadium project, and 100% of my time on building the culture here at the Bears. So this is my full-time energy avocation. So I'm involved with him on a daily basis, but I trust him from just a day-to-day operations that he's going to do the right thing.
What have been your interactions with Caleb?
Yep.
And what are the questions that you hope Ryan is drilling down on?
I mean, I got an opportunity to meet him at the combine, and I look forward to having a chance to spend time with our draft picks. I mean, the potential draft picks.
One.
Well, I don't. I mean, that's where Ryan would get into the specifics. I think everyone we draft this year will be most important. And I mean, you look at the '85 Bears. I mean, that team was built. A lot of that team was built on one draft. And so all of the individuals who visit on their top 30 visits, all of them, I'll have a chance to spend time with them. But I trust Ryan's process on whoever he recommends that the 2 draft picks that we have in the first round and all of our other draft picks. Ryan is very diligent. I mean, that's the thing of it is, and Ian Cunningham and our other scouts. I mean, they are very organized. I got a chance to spend the entire draft last year with them in the draft room, and have sat in on some of the draft meetings this offseason and even free agent meetings. And I think the way that you've seen him to be able to turn our roster over in 24 months that's not luck. I mean, that is someone who has been diligent, who's organized, who understands the league. And I think the biggest thing that has been most impressive about Ryan and Coach, especially this offseason, is that they've both been disciplined. They have the mindset. Yeah, they didn't like winning 3 games the first year. None of us like winning 7 games this past year, but they've remained disciplined to make the decisions like we were a playoff team. And that's hard to do, because you want to, when you feel like you can turn this roster quickly, sometimes you'll reach on decisions. And the thing that's been most impressive about Ryan and Coach and also our scouting staff is that we've remained disciplined. I'm grateful to the McCaskey family. They've provided us with the resources to make those certain decisions. But if you look at all of our draft picks last year and even the first year and the free agent signings these last 2 classes, they've been very methodical and disciplined choices.
Tom, you're a Chicago resident. You're a landowner in Chicago, as well as Joliet. You have been quite vociferous about a lakefront stadium or just one in the city of Chicago, despite the outstanding piece of property in Arlington Heights. You heard what he had to say today in some detail. Again, there was a lot to it, but seems very committed to taking this angle of approach in this beautiful city of Chicago.
It makes me appreciate and love Kevin Warren even more, because I think if you look at a major city like Chicago and you look at really what benefits the interior of the city, it's what that city can offer you in the world in terms of a projection and a look. You and I have been blessed to be at every new stadium built in the NFL in the last 30 years. And so you can only imagine what could be built on the lakefront that is a stadium that's used year round. And I'm glad that Kevin has had the experiences he's had in the NFL and in college football, and to kind of take into account how important it is for the working city, for everything that a stadium like that can supply a working city. And so I feel like a big fish, because I was hook, line, and sinker. I swallowed the lure going to Arlington Heights. But then somehow the more I listen to Kevin, whether it's small group meetings or larger interviews like the one that you conducted with him, that lure has got me back to the city of Chicago. And when you listen to him talk about being on a beautiful lakefront of a clean lake that has great beaches, that has just the visual concept to it that's second to none. I'm glad that his site is wide open.
Well, so the one thing, when you sit there and you've had the occasion to visit with Kevin as well, his positivity, his vision, his ability to visualize what he wants to happen, and that is Super Bowls, Final Fours, Big Ten championships, Bears winning a Super Bowl. He touched on that, obviously, and that was what
multiple
he said.
Super Bowls.
Yes, and that's what he said when he first got hired as well. But you sit there and listen to this man talk so elegantly, so confidently, so businesslike, just dripping with charisma, and he is a great representative of this organization right now and in all things. And so, yes, there's a lot to be done, and they hope they can work it out with the city and the government and Friends of the Park, you name it. There's a lot to overcome, but I believe what the man is saying.
But, Jeff, one thing, so when I listen to the interview, I hear momentum and I hear business. For me on the outside, it's appreciation, because everything that Kevin mentioned about the Super Bowl, about the Final Four, about marquee concerts year round, about all the other different events that should be in the city of Chicago, I have an appreciation for that, because growing up here my whole life in playing high school football in Soldier Field, going to high school games, going to concerts in the summertime, when you drive by that stadium and you see it dormant for 4 months a year, I was always going, God, just imagine if that thing had a roof on it, what Chicago could benefit from. What about those thousands of hotel rooms along Michigan Avenue there in a walkable distance could feed that stadium in a year-round basis? So that's one of the things when I listen to Kevin talk, is I have an appreciation for the fact that he understands it's really important for Chicago.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact, keeping the lakefront beautiful, and that's all a part of this as well. Park space and so many other things. So lots to dig into that. As it's starting to become quite a serious conversation in terms of time frame, as he indicated, before shovels get in the ground and decisions made here in the near future.
But talking about the longer that you delay this project, it probably adds $150 million to $200 million a year to the project. So this isn't something that you naively approach.
No.
That you do all your due diligence and all the renderings and everything and try to get those shovels in the ground.
We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears. Chairman George McCaskey, as he always does at these NFL owners meetings when they wrap up, and all the final meetings with the NFL owners are complete. Visits with the Chicago media. Again, a good 30 minutes, a lot of it stadium talk, a lot of it about where the Bears are at and where they're headed, both on the field and off. Here's just a snippet as he gives you a bit of look from the top down at where the organization is at present.
Give us your State of the Union on where things are at with the franchise.
Quietest offseason in Bears history. A lot going on the football side, a lot going on the business side, a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz. I think Bears fans are optimistic, and we've got to make hay in the draft.
You happy with the work of the football guys and the roster that they were putting together?
Yeah, Ryan and his staff and Matt and his staff done a great job. They've been grinding. They've been in the bunker, working hard, working together very well, both staffs. That's very important. And April 25th, very important.
Kevin mentioned, he used the word momentum. I guess it was more towards the potential of the stadium, but in the wider view of how things are tracking for the organization on the field and off the field. Can you ever remember a time that you feel as positive with direction and momentum as we sit here right here today?
It's hard to recall a time. I mean, to be a team with this much going for it and to have the number one pick and another pick in the first round. But when you're in that situation, you got to make hay. So that's where all the hard work that Ryan and his staff and that Matt and his staff have been doing all these months will pay off in April and beyond.
On the topic of the Hall of Fame, with everything that you've experienced with this organization during your life, what is that weekend in particular mean to you coming up in August, to have Devin, to have Steve, to have Julius, and then the whole team there as well?
Yeah, very excited for Devin, Steve, Julius, and their families. We still have a backlog of deserving Bears that need induction in the Hall of Fame. I'd put Jay Hilgenberg at the top of the list right now. But to see somebody like Devin, who revolutionized the game, being recognized with induction, and to see someone like Steve cut by another team make it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's just tremendous accomplishment. Very happy for both of them. Very proud of both of them.
So George, always with the humor involved as well, Tommy. But obviously, that momentum word is really being used today significantly because, and we are feeling it as the broadcast crew, not only the excitement of having the number one pick, the decision now to delve in and get a rookie draft pick at running the quarterback position. Look at what they've added. The Keenan Allen acquisition has been applauded all over the organization and around the NFL, and the impressive way that general manager Ryan Poles has delicately built this roster over the last 2 years, now into year 3, and just the stadium project and the fan base all excited. I mean, George is super excited, as he should be.
I mean, how couldn't you be? I mean, George is walking arm in arm with Kevin Warren, with Ryan Poles, with Matt Eberflus. They have the 1st and the 9th pick of the draft. They have a new stadium that's on the horizon. They have 3 Hall of Famers that played part of their career and all of their career with the Chicago Bears. And like George said, you got a guy like Steve McMichael that was cut by a team that turned his career into a Hall of Fame career. And then you play the Hall of Fame game, which is just recently announced. So my gosh, it's like I said at the beginning of the show, it's an off season that started and has never stopped.
Yep. And so camp will start earlier. Rookies will show up, rookies and quarterbacks. I think July 17th or 18th, and the first practice for everybody will be July 20th.
Wow.
Emphasis on a quick start, getting ready, conditioning, and it's going to be a lot of interest. And, of course, the Hall of Fame game against the Houston Texans. That'll be on August 1st, and then the induction. And I'm getting excited about that as well for Steve McMichael, for Devin Hester, and our old friend Julius Peppers. While he may have been a short career with the Bears, it was an impactful one indeed. Vizzy Hard Seltzer, flavors for every vibe. Celebrate responsibly. Molson Coors Beverage Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The man that's putting it all together is Matt Eberflus in terms of the scheme, the coaches, the 26 coaches now on this staff, the work he put in to find the best mix of coaches, with emphasis on Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, Thomas Brown. He's very high on Thomas Brown, the Bears passing game coordinator, offensive coordinator experience as well, and just feels very strongly about where things are headed and how much work has been done and still more to do as they get ready for the draft. Here's my one-on-one conversation with the Bears head coach.
Yeah, it's always great to come to Florida and somewhere warm when we're still warming up there in Chicago, but it's been a busy off season with a lot of travel, and it's been productive, though.
Yeah, let's talk about the travel, because not every head coach goes on pro days or even goes to the combine anymore, but you like to dig in, and that's kind of your personality. You're a gritty grinder. So what have you learned from all these trips? And the closer you are with Ryan Poles, the better, both how you guys look at football, and you guys really must be bonding significantly on these journeys.
Yeah, it's been great, and really started right after the off season, the season, and we went out and hired the coaches, and we did a good job with that, and that took a long time. It was a good process, and the coaches that we brought on have been outstanding. Shane has been wonderful. The whole offensive staff has been wonderful. They're really gelling together, putting together that offense, and now we're looking at acquiring some more players. So that trip and the things that we've done in the pro days has been just invaluable. Working with Ryan, talking to him during that process, and then really afterward, what we thought about the workout, and then combine that with the combine, then obviously with the tape, and that we're still on that process right now, and it's going to take some time.
Is that immediate reaction and conversation important?
Yes, it is. Yeah, but it's because
top of mind, right?
Top of mind, and really just working with each other in terms of what we see. And he's evaluated talent a long time, and he's very good at it. And my college background, I've done a lot of that myself, and it's interesting always to compare notes.
No, I've never asked you this, but as a scout and a former player in his case, and still a young man in this business, you as a veteran coach and playing the game at a different position at linebacker versus his offense, do you guys look at the game in pretty much the same vein? Do you guys seek the same types of people, or do you guys have differences that wind up being positive for the franchise?
Yeah, there's always differences. If you're thinking the same, no one's thinking, right? So I think that it's important to always have great, ideas and, your thoughts, and be able to communicate openly. And that's the most important thing, that you can truly communicate, what you see and how you see it. And it's okay to have a different opinion. And if we have that, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll break off into pods. I'll go with, a few coaches, and he'll put the scouts into some pods there, and then we'll look at the tape again, and we'll form opinion that way too. So it's always good to do that.
You got to flush this stuff out, right? Because you're making big decisions. Certainly the number one pick in the draft is one of them. We'll get to that in a second. I want to circle back, though, to the coaching additions. Tom Thayer will get a kick out of this, because he sent me the photo of the Super Bowl champion Bears, the 85 Bears. There are 9 coaches on it. I believe the Bears have 26 right now. It is the sign of the times in the league, though, right? How important is it to have the volume and even doubling up on certain positions, but also in having the right people that maybe can move around in their careers within your organization to do other positions along the way?
Yeah, it's important that, obviously times have changed, and we have a lot of individual attention with each player. So I think that's important to have, at the lines, a couple coaches, and, certainly have the QCs that can help out to crunch the data and break the film down and give you all the analysis that you need. So I'm good with where we are, but they've just worked really well together, and it's important for us to be able to continue to do that. So I had probably 6 meetings with the coaches so far, and I think I'm on number 6 coming up. And it's important to onboard those coaches, and it's important for them to understand exactly the characteristics that I'm looking for each coach, and how we operate, and the foundation that we've built the last 2 years in terms of our HITS principle and how we operate in the building.
Yeah, and then what are you learning from them, especially on the offensive side with Shane and his staff, Thomas Brown? I mean,
yeah, they're just really, first of all, really good men. And they do a really good job. It's important that those guys are working really hard. And then Jennifer King's done a wonderful job too as well. She's been in there integrating herself into the offense, and she's going to be a valuable piece as well. But really looking forward to just bringing those guys together, explaining to them the foundation that we have, and really they'll really look at it once we start implementing it with the players.
So as you enter your 3rd year, and you look at the roster now from what you inherited a couple of years back, how do you feel about where it's headed?
Yeah, I think it's in a really good spot. It's year one was obviously tough going through the tear down that we had to do, and then year 2 we had the chance to really add some really good players in free agency and the draft. Our first draft class, coupled with that, you saw the success that we had at the end of the year. You can certainly feel that building. Now we're able to add, obviously some quality free agents, this time around, and then obviously we have the 4 draft picks right now, and going to get some really good quality players there as well.
All right, let's talk about. We don't have to go every free agent, but obviously the addition of Keenan Allen is something that is significant. We're talking about a Hall of Fame athlete here, and him showing up at the USC Pro Day, which I don't think anybody knew it was happening, but that's a cool story in and of itself. It says a lot about him and how he's excited about it, but just his influence, and then Byard on the back end on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. So Keenan's obviously a wonderful pro. He's been a pro for a long time. I've went against him quite a few times, and he's a hard cover. Mm-hmm. And we were so excited. Everybody in the entire building was so excited to get him. Because, I've talked to, Sirianni, who's coached them, and a couple other guys that have coached them over the years, and they just say what a wonderful pro and what a alpha competitor that he is every single day, and what he brings to your teams in terms of the juice part. And so we're so excited about that.
And a tough cover on 3rd down. I mean, he's got 80% of his 3rd down targets in his career, which I haven't seen many like that before.
Yeah, and people know that the ball's going there, and he's still open. Right. So it's important that he knows his body, he knows how to run routes, and he is just a master craftsman at that. So he does a wonderful job.
And we know you love ball hawks. You love ball hawks. So Kevin Byard is one. What are you getting there in terms of just a veteran influence, veteran intelligence, and a guy who can still play at a high level?
Yeah, much of the same. You're talking about a veteran that has had high production and leadership. He's a really good communicator in the back end. He did that for Tennessee for a long time. And obviously you mentioned it. We love and covet the ball hawk guy, and he's definitely that.
You get close to players. You got close to Justin Fields over the course of your time. Ryan Poles just talked about how difficult of a decision that was to tell him that. I'm assuming the same for you, and what was that whole conversation like?
Yeah, so Ryan and I got together on that day, and obviously talked together and talked to Justin, and told him that where he was going, and wished him well, and he did the same. He was really appreciative of Ryan and I and our partnership and our transparency and the way we communicate, and we just thanked him and told him we loved him and wished him the very best, and it was hard. It's always difficult. I spent 2 years building a relationship, with Justin, and of course, and I told him I love him at the end, and I told him that we'll still have a relationship down the road, and we're still going to continue that as we go.
And now the conveyor belt of the quarterback play. Now you have experience with a young quarterback. A young quarterback is going to run the Chicago Bears, whoever it may be. As a head coach now, 3 years in, are you better prepared for that situation with a young quarterback and the expectation level and the everything that comes with it, especially in Chicago?
Yeah. It's so important that we do have that strong relationship, and we do have a lot of meetings and talk about how we respond to things, and that's going to be part of really when you onboard all the rookies. It's not just him. Obviously, that's the apex of the football team, but certainly some more time and attention on that. But you have to do that with everybody. You have to do it when you onboard the free agents. You have to do it when you draft the guys. So we've been doing that. Our guys handle themselves really well. They're true pros. And that's why we had that foundation and how the building is all set in terms of how we work, how we play, how we compete. And it's only going to get better with the talent levels rising.
And just all the infrastructure. Is this a very good landing spot for a young quarterback, in your opinion?
Yeah, I really believe so, because it's unique, because you don't typically have the first pick and the 9th pick with 2 years of foundation built, with bringing in 2 draft classes and then 2 free agency classes, and now a third. So it's going to be really cool to be able to put that together. And again, we can't miss any steps. John Wooden always says, put your socks on and lace up your shoes every single year. So it's important that we do that, and we got to pay attention to detail as we go through this off season, and this is important 10 weeks. As we bring the players back in on April 14 or April 15, right before the draft, and then bring the rookies in after that. So it's going to be an important part for our Chicago Bears.
You've been credited by the players for keeping that thing together last season, building to the end and fighting to the end. You have great relationships. You got a leadership council. Did you hear back a lot in this offseason from players regarding these moves, and do you take that stuff into consideration?
Yeah, during this time of year, we talk to the players just about family and stuff like that. So it's been great catching up with those guys. I usually hit them up either 2 or 3 times during the off season, and it's been great catching up with those guys.
All right, so how are you mentally for year 3 with the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, I feel great. Ryan and I are strong, and it feels real good about our conversations and the things that we put together. And again, like I said, we're in a building process right now, putting that together, and it's going to take a lot of attention to detail and a lot of hard work.
Lastly, what were your impressions of Caleb Williams in L.A.?
Really good. Yep, really good. We got a chance to spend some time with him, went to dinner with him the one evening, and then I got a chance to spend time with him by myself. I was there for about an hour and 20 minutes, just him and I talking, and it was really good. And he's a fine young man and a great competitor.
And in those situations, are you just trying to learn the man and the young man, or do you talk football too?
Yeah, I really think it's both. You really want to learn about him so you can start, to understand where he's coming from, and then really start going into explaining and doing what we've done the first 2 years here. So if we do draft Caleb or the quarterback that we do draft, he understands what he's getting into.
Tom, you also not only heard that interview, but you heard Coach this morning at the NFC Breakfast for Coaches, which involves every coach in the league, as you indicated at the top of the show. Any particular takeaways from Coach Eberflus?
Well, you can hear the excitement in his voice, and the excitement in his voice leads from the staff he put together. And you have a chance to have a dialogue and a relationship with these guys long before the players ever come in the building. And I think that's when you learn the most about them. But then you think in the foreground about the draft, about the preparation and the decision that you're going to make at number 1. Then you have a quick turnaround, and then you make a decision at number 9. I think you're working in lockstep with Ryan Poles and his staff to make sure that they leave no stone unturned. And so for Matt Eberflus and the experiences that he's gained as a head coach and some of the difficulties that he's coached through last year, I think that he's got to be as excited about getting off to this third season than anybody ever has in coaching. And I think we as Bears fans should be excited as well, because, the arrow is pointed up, especially at throughout the second half of last season. The role that the defense played, and you get some new pieces in place through free agency in the draft, you have higher expectations than you did last year.
And interesting, I don't know if you heard this, but Jaquan Brisker took it upon himself to get the entire secondary linebackers, and they're all working together in California. Kevin Byard included, the new safety that will join him. You often see that with quarterbacks and receivers and the skill position players. But that to me is an important step. Third year for Jaquan Brisker. The third year's always significant. You make your biggest jump, as you often hear Matt say, and from year 1 to year 2. But year 3 is your take. That's the year you start banging on the door of what am I going to become? What am I going to become? Can I get ready? Can I get re-signed in a couple of years? Can I make the impact and be a reason that this team is a winning team and a competitor for the Super Bowl?
Listen, this whole new generation of players, that the opportunity to get together throughout the offseason, it shows the camaraderie, the developing working friendships that they have, and how excited they are to get this thing rolling in the right direction, to convert it to, like Kevin Warren says, multiple Super Bowls. But I will still say, from the beginning of this week, the most exciting thing I saw, and these guys have talked about it, is Keenan Allen being at the workout for Caleb Williams. Not asked to be there, not encouraged to be there, showing up on your own and wearing the blue and orange. I tell you, man, I still find that as one of the coolest things that I've seen in terms of new Bears that are being brought aboard or stepping outside the lines and showing up to an event like that.
It was a veteran move, and he found a way to get his own Bears gear. So he that was a veteran move. And when Caleb Williams saw that, you could see the instant. They know each other over the last year. He lives in Southern California, but we all know that's a rare move.
I've been out of football for 30 plus years, Jeff, and it kind of rubbed me in an emotional way too.
I hear you. Game day snacking calls for good foods, chunky guacamole made with Hass avocados, tomatoes, onions, cilantro, and a squeeze of lime juice. Score some today at your local grocery store. Game day is guac day. This is Bears Etc. episode 61. All right. Had an opportunity to visit with Ashton Washington. I've gotten to know her a little bit. She has been very, very busy in the Bears personnel department, a player personnel coordinator, and she's been on Good Morning Football and NFL Network talking about what it meant to be the franchise's first female scout, and featured in NFL 360 that debuted, I believe, yesterday. Check it out. It's an outstanding piece on a person that is motivated in more ways than one. Here's our sit down with Ashton Washington. We are celebrating Women in the month of March and women's history, adding new chapters daily here in the NFL, never more so than the hiring of assistant coaches, high-ranking officials in front offices, and in the personnel, scouting, training departments, a number that has reached well over 40% in the NFL offices, and I believe 33 women in scouting roles in the NFL. We welcome Bears player personnel coordinator Ashton Washington to the Bears Etc. podcast. NFL 360 dropped, and the feature is Ashton Washington. I watched it. It was an incredible 15 minutes. How did that all come about? How'd you feel when you did it? And how do you feel about the end result?
I got an email from our VP of Communications, Brandon Faber, basically a message from the league office up in New York. They wanted to do a documentary about my life and my journey as a woman in football. I thought about it. It took me some time. I went to my resources, which is mom, dad, and went to that close village, and I'm like, what do you guys think? Basically, they were saying, if you feel comfortable to do it, go for it. You can inspire so many little girls, and you don't know who's watching, and what they can become after seeing what you're doing right now. So that was one of honestly, truly the main reasons why I did it, was to inspire.
Well, the inspirational words keep ringing through my ears. Like, every day you got to prove yourself, but job's not finished.
Hey, that's the motto.
That is your slogan. When was that born?
Kobe Bryant.
Okay.
I grew up playing basketball, being around it, constantly evaluating what I'm doing, how I go about things, and getting better each and every day. Not comparing myself to anybody else, just consistent, like I said, getting better, asking for help, learning, not thinking I'm too good to learn. I got to this role where I am now by asking questions, by humbling myself and being able to, again, just take in knowledge from those around me and those who have been here where I am now in the NFL. They've been there longer than me. So there's a lot that I can still learn right now from them. But yeah, job's not finished. We're still growing.
I relate to that fire, and I believe in this sport in particular, because it is hard to break into this sport.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter who you are. It's hard to stay in this sport. Do you have to remind yourself of that every day? Do you have to look in the mirror and say, job's not done? Or how do you process that?
I think for me to be vulnerable with you and with everybody listening is that not every day is easy.
Yeah.
You know, I could sit here and say, oh, yeah, it's a walk in the park. Absolutely
You're
not.
in the NFL.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And it just goes back to whether you're working in the NFL, whether you're playing in the NFL, you know, this isn't easy. So there's a lot of days where, you know, you got to really, really push yourself, because if you want it, you're going to push yourself. And it's all about the consistency part. So I think for me, the biggest element is that quote. And most importantly, what does that quote mean to me? Keep going. You can see me smiling right now.
Yeah, I
hope
do.
they can hear me
She's got
smiling.
a great smile, too.
You got to keep going.
She's got that Mamba mentality. We got to break into a little hoop, though, because you bring up Kobe, and everybody loves Kobe. We certainly miss Kobe. What a player, what a man. But you're in MJ country, you know.
Chicago, the best city.
So I'm an MJ guy, right? But I also love LeBron. I you know, who doesn't love LeBron? But today's young men and women love LeBron. Like, he's the greatest of all time. So I don't know if you can make. Yeah, it's generations. But wouldn't you love to see them all play once? I mean, I'm talking Will Chamberlain. I'm talking Bill Russell. I'm talking Kobe, Michael, Larry Bird, Magic. Would that be something?
Incredible.
With artificial intelligence now today, you never know. That could actually happen.
Hey, you know who I want to see play too?
Who?
We can add our director of personnel, Jeff King.
Oh.
We can add him.
I
there.
have played basketball with Jeff King. When he first got here, we were in training camp in Bourbonnais. Chris White, also a member of the Bears scouting department, Jeff King, and little 5'7.5" on a good day, Jeff Joniak, mixing it up, playing some pickup hoops in the gym, and Jeff King was throwing it around. Like, it was, like, you don't want to get underneath that 6'6", 6'7" power forward.
Like, Jeff's competitive and everything, so he's probably going to try to dunk on you. And then after, he's going to be mad when I say this, but after, his knees are probably going to be hurting.
So, in your role right now, what are the specifics of it for those who may not have an understanding behind the curtain of what actually goes on? And arguably, one of the most important, possibly historic off seasons in Bears history.
Yeah, right now, it's a momentous time for Chicago Bears, for Chicago Bears fans, for the players, for everybody in this building. So for my role and to be in the midst of all of this is huge. And I'm very grateful for everyone allowing me an opportunity to be here. My role entails basically working with our college scouts, our pro scouts, our directors, our assistant GM, our GM, and pretty much being, as Poles calls me, that nervous system. But being that nervous system is more so always coming out of my comfort zone, being a really good people person, because I got to communicate with not just our personnel department, but coaches in the building, the business side, and so on. So I got to be really well-versed. Also, helping our college scouts and our pro scouts and any element they might need, so assisting with travel for any players that come into this building, whether that's free agency, that's 30 visits, or even our local pro day. And then most important is evaluating players. So learning from our scouts, picking up on things, and trying to bring the best players that we can into this building. And that's, again, on the college side and the pro side. So it's kind of like a role mixed up, intertwined,
yeah,
and a lot of things. But yeah, it's more so, I like to call it, I got to always be a big picture anticipator. Got to be willing, again, to come to our comfort zone and ask questions, continue to ask questions. And, there's one thing, Poles and Ian, which is our assistant general manager, with them, they probably get annoyed with me because I got to ask a lot of questions because there's certain things, that I got to know in order to move forward on things. By getting the green light from them, to take force.
Learning how to scout, there's some instincts involved, of course, but schematically, things change season to season. New personnel, new coaches, in context, explain to the average person out there just how you have to take time to learn all that. And it just doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, I'm going into my 4th season, still learning.
Yeah.
I think for me, I see a different element from it. So I can kind of see from a player's side point, like with my brother, him playing in college, him playing in the league, and seeing how a player is, again, what you said, taking in all that information, learning that stuff in like a week or 2 weeks, and then also using the guys around me, the scouts, picking up on their language, picking up on, for me, this is a better way to put it. My dad, listen to him as a football coach. A coach kind of speaks different than a scout.
Yep.
So for me, when I first came in my first year, it was more so trying to figure out how to put the scouting language into what I was actually seeing on the screen. And to this day, still learning. Yeah. And I remember when I first got here, there was something that I would use from like a coaching element, and some of the scouts would be like, you kind of say it this way. It's always been a helping hand since I've been here.
Yeah, because scout talk and coach talk.
Scout talk is different.
I mean, the language, there's some, and I've met a ton of them that have come through this building that I still have relationships with throughout the league, and they all phrase things a little differently. Some just crack you up. I mean, they got catchphrases for everything, right?
Jeff Shives.
Oh, legend. You've been here forever, Shives. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I mean, so many across the league for sure. You mentioned your brother, and so let's get into the family here, because there's a deep impact in your family of sports, and it's not just you being a prep basketball player. But first, we got to start with explain who Chris Washington is, first of all, and what he's meant to you.
It's my dad.
There you go.
Oh, man. So I like to say this. Mom is like the cheerleader, so she's going to cheer you on whether you're doing good, whether you're doing bad. She's always going to cheer you on. Dad, he's going to cheer you on, but he's going to give you a lot of tough love. And he's going to say, I don't know about that, or I think that's a good idea, but I need you to work a little bit harder.
Yeah, not what you want to hear, what you need to hear.
Yes, exactly. And he's more so about, not being complacent, and how we talked about at the beginning, always learning, never become too good where you can't learn anymore, because you can learn something each and every day. But yeah, Dad means a lot to me. Mom does too.
Yeah. But you were kind of tethered to his hip when he was coaching your brother, and in a younger age, and is that where the ignition switch clicked?
Yeah, and you can see it, in the NFL 360 documentary. The way they portrayed it is exactly, how it was. So learning from my dad, and then seeing my brother out there doing exactly what my dad was kind of coaching them out there to do it. And then kind of seeing firsthand, when my brother moved into tackle, he started doing exactly what my dad was doing, writing plays, and he would do them himself. So as he was learning, I was learning too.
Were you writing down plays?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Might not have been as good as Parker's, which is my brother, but.
Parker, wide receiver, Jacksonville, entering his second year out of Penn State. I think he had 16 or 19 catches, a couple touchdowns late in the year. And I know I texted you when he got drafted. Just how unbelievable it is. Can you have imagined looking at yourselves as brother and sister, toddlers, young men and women, that you guys would be in the NFL together at the same time? Seriously, could you have written that script? Think about that growing up in Houston.
For me, the goal was to get here.
Yeah.
Let's get to the NFL. It's like a player. My process or my journey, it started in high school football, college football, semi-professional with the XFL, and then now we're here. Parker, same thing. Kindergarten, they ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I know most of the guys here on our team do the same thing. I wanted to play in the NFL. And it's all about, actually making it happen. So it's a blessing to say that we are here. Some days I have to sit back and actually take it in because I feel like I'm always on go. When I got to the NFL, time was moving fast. The calendar blows by. And next thing you look up, it's another draft, another combine, 100%. And so on.
No one understands that.
No. So
what do you do all year? You call 17 games and 3 preseason games and hope you play in the. Yeah, it goes by fast. And it is like an internal clock. Your body and your mind and body anticipate what's coming, and you kind of look for that mid-June to early July break. Everybody kind of take a deep breath because it's a grind. Your cousin is 49er quarterback Joshua Dobbs. I don't know. Does he like the Pastronaut as the moniker? Because, boy, he was a story this past season.
You know what? He was the Pastronaut, and you got to think about this. He was with the team, up there somewhere.
Yes.
So it was kind of just a half and half for me. I'm like, oh man, we're gonna beat you when we play you. Like, it's always like it's really competitive. Like with myself, with my brother, with my cousins, like it's very competitive.
Was there even a hello before the game? No,
it was not. And he actually texted me the day before, and he was pretty much saying, you guys ready for the game? And I text him back, and this is just me kind of just playing around with him, and I text back A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and that was it. And it was a done deal. And then we won, of course.
Nice. Another cousin, Tyler Tolbert, drafted by the Kansas City Royals last year. Your dad played at Mississippi State and Air Force, right? I mean, so you grew up in this, didn't you? You grew up in this competitive nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I feel like I'm the most competitive, though.
Seriously, I could see the look on your face. Yeah. Like, you don't back down from it. Like, I could tell when you get serious.
Yeah, I'm the most competitive.
In high school, what position on the floor? Point guard?
Come on now, you know that. Point guard.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah. I could see it. All right, so there's so many cool things, and we don't have enough time to get them all in, but I want to talk about the fact that you're here, and you already have a scholarship, an annual scholarship, Ashton Washington Women of Color annual scholarship that was also portrayed in the piece on NFL 360. What was the genesis of that? And it was emotional because you met the young lady that won the scholarship, and she seems like she's going places already. I can tell just the way she speaks. How important is that to you? Pass it forward. Move it forward.
Moving forward, and, when I started it, I actually started it when I got my first official paycheck. It wasn't much, but It was my first paycheck at the University of Illinois. And I was like, wow, I got a little bit of extra money. And I was like, I want to give it away. So I started, the annual scholarship.
Fantastic.
And I did it for the state of Mississippi, and that's where I was born. And I kind of rooted it back to my favorite person in the entire world, which is my grandma. And she was a graduate of Rusk College, which is an HBCU, historically black college university. With that being said, it was just kind of like what my grandma has always taught me. Don't forget where you come from. Don't forget where your roots are planted. And it kind of ties back to deeply rooted, what we did here at the Bears. And so that was pretty much the genesis, the background of it. It was not forgetting where I come from, and then showing some representation for my grandma, HBCU graduate, and a teacher of so many years in the state of Mississippi. So why not give back?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a beautiful story right there.
Thank you.
A beautiful man is Lovie Smith. Brought you into U of I. I know he's also in that NFL 360 piece. How do you ever thank a guy so much for getting you in there? Kind of gets you started.
I think the best way to thank him is not by saying, thank you over and over, but it's about doing the work and earning the stripes and, showing him, one, that you allowed me an opportunity, the first Power 5 opportunity. And I think the best way, again, to pay it back is to keep working and to show him how hard I am working and continue to do so.
Well, you also learn about the business of football. They moved on from Lovie, and everybody, that's what happens, right? At colleges, NFL. Did that jolt you?
24 hours, 48 hours.
Yeah.
But after that, you got to get back to it. But I like to say I got it firsthand. My first job or first Power 5 opportunity, I got to see what that felt like.
Mm-hmm. I call Ryan Poles the quiet storm because he's always under control, it appears, calm. We have great conversations, but I could feel this burning inside him, the competitiveness. Would that be an accurate way from your inside-out view of what Ryan's all about?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We want to win. Mm-hmm. Champions mindset, that we want to win now. And I learned a lot from Poles. I call him Poles. We have similar personalities. So we get each other. Sometimes, that we don't necessarily even have to say one word. We kind of like read each other's minds. But I appreciate Poles, as much as I appreciate Lovie Smith, because Poles, allowed me to stay here. When him and his regime came in.
Yep. Ian Cunningham.
Similar personality to me as well. I learned from him just as much as I learned from Poles. Ian and Poles, if I'm maybe kind of like, I don't want to say slacking, but maybe, there's times where I could have done something better. Both of them are going to say something. And I appreciate that. I'd rather you speak up and tell me and then just kind of letting me on, just slide on by. That's not helping me, and that's not helping our team. But yeah, Ian and Pose, those are my guys.
Love your mindset. All right, we're going to wrap up with this. Another milestone moment happened a few weeks back. Jennifer King comes aboard, assistant running backs coach. That has got to mean something to you as well, to have another pioneer in the building.
Yeah, and then for me and for her as well, she probably attests to this, is we were both a part of the Women's Forum. She was a couple years before me, but, having that bond, it's very different. And I know Sam Rappaport, she'll be proud of me for saying that, but it's a different type of bond. And, I actually, what's crazy? I'll tell you this. Fun fact. In my office, if I'm sitting in my chair and I'm looking straight ahead at the TV, if I turn around and I knock on the wall, that's Jennifer King's or Coach King's office.
That's fantastic.
And so I told her, hey, I don't know about you, but you want to build like a teleporter kind of deal in here?
Right. Or just, have codes. I'm dying over here, or things are good. Oh, that's fantastic.
But no, look, I'll leave her alone because, again, we got a big season. We got to win. I'll leave her alone.
And then the new Executive Vice President of Stadium Development, Chief Operating Officer, Karen Murphy. Mika White-Morris comes over as EVP of Revenue and Chief Business Officer. Tanya Dreesen, Senior Vice President of Strategy and Global Affairs and Chief of Staff. You've got Tanisha Wade, Senior Vice President of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. Erica Marmahelo, Director of Player Engagement. Strong women in the building. It's growing. Do you feel like you're in good company right now at all levels?
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to meeting, the new hires.
Yes. The impact of high school girls flag football. Jets and Bears involved with the UK. It's an Olympic sport. I mean, what's this mean? What's this mean for now and the future? Just for women in sports, young girls, to actually be able to play this game in their way at the moment. Who knows what's next? Who knows?
I know when we had the girls flag championship here at Hallis at our facility, the number one thing that all the young girls would say is that they love flag football because it was a sport where not everybody has played it. So, like, you think about volleyball, you think about basketball, you think about track. Like, there's a lot of kids that's probably been doing that since they were 4 or 5. But flag football was kind of new to everybody. So the young ladies felt more comfortable in playing because, maybe I might not catch it, but maybe she might not catch it, or maybe she might catch it, and so on. So they said it was a really, really good sport for them and their confidence. And I'm quite jealous, actually, because I didn't have that growing up. So flag football, is what you said. It's on a rise.
Yeah, it really is. Worldwide.
Absolutely.
Worldwide. All right, I'll leave you with this. Kevin Warren in that piece says she could do anything she wants. She could be a GM. She could be a president, CEO. She transcends race and gender. Chairman George McCaskey. My hope is that when Ashton Washington becomes an NFL general manager, it won't be a big deal. You got your eyes closed right now. Are you dreaming big, or are you holding back tears? Which one?
Well, one, you can't let them down. Can't let them down at all. So I got to work harder. Job's not finished, right?
Job's never finished.
Ever. That means a lot.
We'll leave it at that. You're a joy. Great to talk to you. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
So, Tom, there's so much to unpack here about Ashton Washington. First of all, she has that, she mentioned Kobe Bryant, the mama mentality, but this is about somebody that's driven. I mean, you can see it in her face. And at the end there, when I was asking to reflect on the quotes from Kevin Warren and George McCaskey, man, it choked me up. I mean, she closed her eyes and had a really take it in and said, well, I can't let them down. This woman has everything in the right perspective. Obviously, great family that helped her along in terms of believing in herself to do whatever it is she wants to do. And there's nothing stopping this young lady.
No way. And I don't know if it's a tangent, but it's just something that struck me different. So this year in the NCAA women's basketball tournament, I've been watching a lot of basketball, whether it's players from USC or South Carolina, LSU, Notre Dame, in Iowa. And when I listen to interviews from the behind the scenes people of scouting athletes, it's not male or female. Athlete is discovering the talent of whatever sport you're investigating. And when I heard the interview with Ashton, it kind of struck me as I was really happy that she was brought aboard, because she's a talented person that's going to be able to see athletes. I'm happy for the Bears. I'm happy for Ryan Poles and his staff. I'm happy for Ashton. But, when I start looking at global athletes in all sports, men and women, you get an appreciation of the investigative work that these scouts go through and how tireless it is. And it's going to be fun to track her accomplishments while she's with the Bears.
Lifetime commitment indeed. When it's time to tackle some game day deals, then go with the grocer who's been a part of Chicago since 1899, Jewel Osco, the official grocery store of the Chicago Bears. You had something else there?
Well, I was glad that they mentioned her in a role as possibly being a GM someday, because I think when people step outside the boundaries and they're able to accomplish something like that, how gratifying would that be, and how meaningful would it be for the NFL? So I'm pulling for her in every way I possibly can.
Okay, make sure you check out ChicagoBears.com, that 5-part series on Steve McMichael and Devin Hester, written by senior writer Larry Mayer, about their induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which now officially involves the Bears and the Houston Texans, whom they'll also play in the regular season in Chicago. So a couple of meetings every 23rd of the month. Bears.com will release a feature on Devin Hester. So a little behind the scenes on these great Bears. All right, so another aspect of the NFL owners meeting as it wraps up is the final view of some of the competition committee's recommendations. So here we have it. It's going to be an interesting season after we just completely were disappointed about kickoffs a year ago, all the way through the Super Bowl with touchbacks galore and unreturned kicks. That's not going to be the case in 2024. As Terrell Owens once said, get your popcorn ready, Tom, because the new kickoff rule is going to be absolutely exciting, and it is a hybrid take on the kickoff, something the XFL started, and they have tweaked, and it's going to produce returns. Tom, I
love it.
I expect the average starting field position is going to change. Typically, it's a little bit more than a 25. It's going to be more than that, and I expect some short fields, and I expect some long fields based on how strategically this all comes about. And I talked to Matt Eberflus, and he had a gleam in his eye. This is a football play now. This is a design. This is a plan. This is a scheme. And all these special teams coordinators are rubbing their hands together. Okay, let's go. And right shortly after that, Cordero Patterson gets signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers. All of a sudden, he's got, and the Bears have right now, I'm sure there'll be competition, but Velus Jones becomes an important person in this kickoff return thing. So what is your opinion of the new rule as it was introduced to you today?
Absolutely love it. I'm excited that the play's brought back to football. I can't wait to see the construction and the design of actual return play when you consider the defenders and the blockers. I think it's going to be a whole new excitement that's added to the NFL. I appreciate it as much as when they moved the extra point back to make it more of a difficult kick. I'm super excited, and I hope it transfers to the college game so they start developing special teams players that fit into that role, get returners back on the map, stop the fair catch baloney in the field of play. And I couldn't be more excited. And if I was at the owners meeting, I would go around the table and hug each and every one of them that voted for it.
Yeah, I hear you. 29 of them did. So it was including the Bears.
Good.
So this is a good thing. But just some of the basics, in case you haven't checked it out. Kickoff still from the 35. The setup zone, opposing team at the 40-yard line plus territory. 35 for the return team. And then the landing zone from the 20 in. If it hits in the end zone on a touchback, it's 30-yard line start. I think it's going to challenge kickers to be,
man.
Hey, are they going to kick it out of bounds? What happens late in a game? What is your strategy when you're, with a minute and 20 to go in the game and, you're going to kick the ball? What are you going to give them the 30 on a touchback, or are you going to have them challenge your coverage unit? I mean, there's so many scenarios.
What about onside kicks?
Well, that's not a part of this. You have to declare an onside kick.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you have to declare an onside kick.
Just for the
It's no more
listeners.
yeah. But it's going to be fun indeed. All right, some other things. The NFL is going to have a doubleheader on Christmas Day on a Wednesday. So I don't know how you feel about playing every day of the week. Not quite there, but it seems like we're getting there. Christmas Day is a huge television ratings bonanza. But from a player perspective, what's your opinion on this and how you get ready for a game? Because the impact is the day. The impact is the day. It's Wednesday. What you play the week prior and what you play the week after also is going to factor in now, and it's going to be interesting how they're going to pull this off.
Right. I mean, they've got some scheduling. I think they said if you do play on Christmas Day, there's a guarantee you'll play Saturday the week before. So you have that time of preparation, a lot like a Sunday, Thursday game. To me, I was always a big fan of playing on holidays. I loved playing on Thanksgiving in Detroit or Dallas, and I've done them both. I really enjoy it as the viewer. I love that as well. I think it's great for camaraderie and for family and for everybody to gather around the TV, and it's going to be awesome.
Also, a third quarterback can now be elevated from the practice squad an unlimited amount of times during the season. So this gives flexibility to have that third quarterback inactive on game day, but eligible to play as the emergency quarterback. So this forces all of your quarterbacks to be mentally ready to play in a game in case the other two get hurt.
Listen, you better be mentally ready to play in the game, whether you're the fifth guy on the bench at a position or you're the third quarterback. That's the reason that you're on the practice squad, is to make sure that you're physically, mentally, psychologically prepared if your number's called in a moment's notice. So that goes for every position, including the quarterback.
Does that change, in your opinion, the personnel departments look at who the third quarterback's going to be?
Listen, you go back to last season and you look at some of the quarterbacks that took snaps in the NFL, they're less than the best. To me, when I went today and I looked at all the quarterbacks that are going to be playing in the UFL, and now this is a consolidation of two leagues, so you're going to have a better quarterback rotisserie to look from if you get to that desperate. So I would have scouts paying attention to that league as well as I would the other guys that are floating out there. When you think of what Joe Flacco was doing, how old he is, and when he was signed last year and what he did for the Cleveland Browns, and now he's the backup for Indianapolis, maybe your career's never over until you actually say it's over. But if I'm in another league, I'm competing equally as hard and living my goals and my dreams and my aspirations to someday being an NFL player.
Tom, as I wrap things up here from Orlando, headed back to Chicago tomorrow, I got to say I heard a lot of great things from a lot of people that I respect in the National Football League about the Chicago Bears. And, it's an understatement to say that they are the heartbeat of the offseason, because they truly are. And, from everything from stadium talk to the number one pick, potential of Caleb Williams, a new stadium, Hall of Fame game, Hester, McMichael, going into the Hall of Fame, and going to London, the international experience, and how Kevin Warren views this franchise and how he views the future of this franchise, George's optimism, head coach Matt Eberflus, new look and all, Tom. He looks
good with that beard.
He sure does.
I tell you,
he looks
really
good with the beard, new haircut.
Yeah,
He's dressed for success, and he is all about ball. Miller Lite. Tastes like Miller time. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. That's going to do it for us. Nice job. That's Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everyone. Please subscribe now to the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.